Welcome to the garden, and there's been a couple of slightly mild days this week, so I decided I would get a move on and just do some light tidying. Seeing as we're heading into March now, I decided to revamp and refresh the raised beds, which you'll see later in this video. Let's have a little look around and see what's growing in the garden in February. Finally bit the bullet and I bought a new lawnmower. I have gone electric, but hands-free electric, because that was a non-negotiable for me. I did not want to have a cord. I was saying last year that my poor old petrol lawnmower was on its last legs, so I decided I'm going to give my old one away to a family member who needs one, and they're going to get it repaired. And I decided to go electric. I only have used this once. I can't give you a proper review. The reason why I went for this one is because I already have bought some of the Ryobi tools in the garden. So I have the leaf blower, I have some of their power tools, and all of the batteries interchange with each other. So far, the one thing I will say is I would recommend this for smaller gardens like my size. If you have a lot of grass, you will need a lot of batteries, or you might need a more powerful model. The plus side of this lawnmower is it's really light, and I said before in the past that I suffer from tendonitis in my hands sometimes, so when it comes to picking tools, I try and pick ones that are a bit lighter and easy to use. You will definitely need a second battery for this. If you have a big garden, I think you need the ride-on lawnmower, not this one. You may be wondering why my grass down the bottom is looking so disgraceful. In an ideal world, you would not walk on grass during the frost or when it's wet. Because I still use my greenhouse in the winter, I walk in this area, but I really like having grass and not stone around here. I do have some stone, but I like the grass. Good news is this fixes itself very quickly. Come mid-March, April, when it's a bit warmer, I put down grass seed, and within about 3 weeks, this is looking lovely and lush. I normally mix in a bit of clover as well, just so it looks, because the rest of my grass is full of weeds, but nice weeds. I've got daisies and dandelions and clover. So don't worry, this will look lovely once again. The mud will be gone. That jingle in the background is toffee. I have just stopped for a cup of tea. I don't know if you can hear all the birds behind me, and a delivery van. Okay, my timing is off. It was lovely and peaceful a minute ago. And there was loads of bird sounds. So it is getting dusky and I need to bring in the scaffold boards for the back of this. But I will show you around and I'll show you the jobs that I need to do. I have a lot of repair jobs to do with the raised beds. But there's actually lots of new growth in the past. See, it was really mild the past week and a half. It was above 10, 11 degrees during the day. So there was a bit of growth on the grass. Obviously the extra hour sunlight as well. So yeah, lots has started to grow. Let's have a look around. If you've seen some planks of wood randomly lying around, these are designed to go on top of the raised bed, which you'll see later on, and they're like little toppers. So I'm hoping they'll make my raised beds look a bit fancy. Also, I hope you can hear the bird song in the background because it is really, really nice. My little camellia is flowering. Camellias must be very slow growing because I feel like that shrub has been the same size the past 2 years. Also, the teasels, I planted them last year from seed. I think they're a biennial, but they have just been foliage, so maybe they will flower this year. So as you can see, lots of tulip foliage. You can see as well, I'm going to get the bottle of algae now, and that will take away all of the green algae. So last year I was saying that I tried to power wash this, but trying to get algae out of wood with a power washer is not, well, it's easier if you use something. So you can use a vinegar solution. I like the algae because you spray it on a dry day, and then the rain kind of works its magic over a week, 2 weeks, and then all the green algae just naturally goes, and there's no nasties in it. It does smell very vinegary, so I wonder, is that kind of the base of it? Oh, soon there will be leaves on the trees. A patch of crocus has come up from last year. It's up earlier than it was last year, but I only planted some bulbs here, so I extended it, and they have foliage on them, so I'm hoping they'll come up a little bit later, so then I'll still have some crocus in the ground. So they've come up. They don't look as fancy because the sun has gone in. When the sun hits them, they look lovely. In the front you can see the pink tree and some daffodils, and also my bag of mulch and soil that I need to clear. And then down here, these are 3 8-foot scaffold boards. I'm not sure if I have to cut them to size, but these are the scaffold boards because what's in the greenhouse at the minute that I'm using as a table is actually these planks of wood, and I need them for the raised bed. So they were just a temporary situation if you saw that video. So I'm going to take these in and set up that table, my workbench, and then I can take the wood that's in there and put it on the raised beds. I bought these raised bed toppers from the same place where I bought my actual raised beds. I can't remember if my raised beds originally were the allotment ones, so they were the budget version. They probably were, to be fair, and they're about 3 years old. I think I did this 2020, 2021. So these toppers are 6 foot by 4 foot, which is the size of my raised beds. They're a tiny bit fiddly to assemble and stick on. Maybe because I was on my own doing it. If you had 2 people and someone holding them together, it might not be that bad. It took me about 2 hours and a cup of tea, or maybe 2 cups of teas, to put these together. And I just love how they elevate the look of the raised beds. Now you could totally make these yourself. You can see that there's a tenon joint. I know that from my woodwork class. So they just slot together, and then there is some holes for the screws as well. The kits don't come with screws, so pick up, I got some deck screws, so like decking screws. They are a bit better for not going rusty in the outdoors, in the rain and the elements. You'll notice as well that I repaired some of the raised beds. So naturally wood over time is going to change shape, and wood will naturally deteriorate in the garden. So wood you can generally get up to 10 years with it, and then you may have to replace pieces. Two of the raised beds that I needed to repair are down in the area of the garden where over winter it gets more moisture. So I wonder, is it the moisture that's maybe causing them to deteriorate a bit more quickly? I was able to repair them by putting in some new screws, and then I did spray some of the algae, the algae remover, which I'll talk about later on in the video. So come April time, late March, hopefully most of the algae has been washed away by the rain, and all of these tulips and daffodils and bulbs, all of these beds are packed to the brim with spring bulbs for cut flowers. Also, if you are unsure when to cut things back in the garden, it's going to depend on your location and your temperature. So I had a week where the daytime temperatures were around 10-11 degrees, slightly mild for February, but this weekend they are on the cooler side. However, there is no frost. So generally March, April is a good time. Also keep an eye on maybe your local gardens, because this week I noticed that where there's loads of wildflower meadows in the woods where I go walking, the council had cut all of them back. So over winter, they had let everything go to seed, and it was great to see because sometimes you'd see birds foraging on the seed, which was great in wintertime. So I noticed that they had cut everything back, probably because it was a bit milder. I did leave a lot of seed heads on things over the winter for the same reason, but as it's getting a bit milder, I decided to cut them back and allow all that lovely new growth to start coming up. There's also lots of other flowering plants now in the garden. Not as much as obviously summertime, but locally there is trees blossoming. If you saw last week's video when we visited that stunning garden, you would have seen there's lots of bulbs open, crocus, muscari, snowdrop. So if it's still quite cold where you are, maybe you have snow and you don't want to disturb any hibernating insects, then hold off on cutting back. It can be so tempting. I do it myself. I see someone doing something online and I'm like, ooh, I must get out and do that. But I think it's easy to get caught up in like the future and the weeks coming up. But at the end of the day, it's still February. We're going into March. There is plenty of time. Now, speaking of the pollinators and the insects, this week in my beekeeping course that I'm doing, I learned all about swarms, and I assumed that bees would kind of swarm all the time, which I think they can if the hive gets too full, but there can be a swarming season. And also I am learning about the Apis mellifera, which is the Irish native bee, which is known as the black bee, the European black bee. Swarming kind of season can be around May and June, but later in the season, if you have a really full hive, they do a thing where they swarm, so they will grow a second queen. There will be queen cells in the hive. That queen will fight with the old queen, or she may just fly out. Half of the hive will go off with the new queen, and that's when you see them swarming. So you might see like a ball of bees in a tree or in a random location, and then they will go off and find somewhere suitable to build a new hive. It's the bees' way of reproducing, basically. So we were learning about swarm controls and what to do when you get a swarm, how to handle it. And something I'm learning from going to this beekeeping course is I thought, you could have one beehive, but it seems most of the beekeepers will have two. So around swarming season, they may let them grow a new queen, take the old queen out, put her in a new hive, then you have two hives. So beekeepers do not go on holidays around May or early June, because half of their hive might disappear and fly away. So I have been learning that there is so much that goes into beekeeping. So this week we're learning about pests, because something that was causing the decline of the native Irish bee was a mite. Now, I don't know anything about it yet. I just have kind of seen it when I was flicking through a book. So I know the Beekeepers Association don't like to use like chemicals and stuff. So I will report back when I learn about the pests that the poor Apis mellifera has been dealing with. If you're new to gardening or if you're new to my channel, I promise I have much prettier garden videos over on the cottage garden playlist. I also have a video that I put together back in January just sharing my journey. So if you want to see some of my DIY projects that I've done in the garden, I'll pop a card and I will link to that video in the description as well, where you can check it out. And there's also loads more videos, so if you want to see what I got up to in the garden last season, check out the cottage garden playlist and you can watch them in order. Or if you would like to binge videos ad-free, why not become a member and you can watch all of the channel's videos on the member playlist ad-free. Okay, I have a split knee pipe. I was like, why isn't this working for me? And I took apart the little thing, and the tube that brings the fluid to my hose has a split in it. So I think I can just get a new tube. I don't think I have to buy a whole new thing. But you need this sprayer to spray the algae. So I wanted to start spraying down the surfaces that has the algae on it, just to make it look nice and clean. So if you saw last year, I used this. I actually bought 2 bottles last year. This one isn't open, so I'm like, that's a win. And it is, yeah, algae. It's safe for pets, that's why I use it. Non-toxic, it's grand around ponds. It smells very vinegary. You can use a vinegar solution. Some people are saying that the vinegar solution didn't really work well for them. Maybe you have to do it like once or twice. I find this one, I did it once last year and it was grand. So the hotspots for the algae is shed, raised beds, and then the path at the side, and then paths kind of around the door wherever there's pots and stuff. But I'll have to park that job. But anyway, that's what it is there. I got mine last year. I bought it from Pagola Nurseries, so I recommend that one. You can get other ones that are really toxic. I think one of them is called Patio Magic, so just be careful if you see stuff like this in the shops to just check the label on them, because some of them might look like they're safe, but when you read the toxic sheet for them, it'll be like keep pets inside for 24 hours while it does its thing, whereas once this is dried, it's grand. Like, yeah, you just have to be careful with the overspray. But yeah, and you dilute it 1 part to 3. So this is a 10-litre thing, and I put the whole bottle in and added water. I actually had a little dribble left in the pot, but my pipe isn't working, so I'm gonna have to end it there. That's what I got up to in the garden this week. Still things to cut back and stuff like the hydrangeas, but there's actually a bit of a cold snap this weekend. There's like 2 or 3 days where it could get cold, so I'm like, I'll leave some till March. Be grand. Sure, it's March next week. But anyway, the garden season, she's starting to take off.